Daddy eats lots. Daddy eats lots. Daddy eats lots. Munch, munch, munch.
Hello and welcome to Daddy Eats Last, where we discuss the challenges of being a man in modern society and whatever the hell that even means. I'm Kane, and joining me today to chat man stuff is Jeremy Macvean. Jeremy used to run the Movember campaign in Australia and is still heavily involved in their health promotion, including the mental health and suicide prevention programs. He's also founded a new initiative called the Fatherhood. Between all of this, he also finds time to be a father to 3 young girls. Welcome to the show, Jeremy.
Thanks, Kane. Thanks. Great to be here.
Now, firstly, it is Movember, and I'm seeing a lot of guys getting around town with all types of great and also some pretty ridiculous-looking mustaches. Can you tell me a little bit more about Movember as an organisation? Because it's not just all about wearing a mustache, is it?
Yeah, it's not. The mustache is a really important part, the furry ribbon of men's health. It was founded about 15 years ago off the back of a joke, believe it or not. And it's off that joke then gone global into 23 countries, and fantastic mo bros, as they get called, grow a mustache. And most sisters are also part of the campaign, so people can commit to move for the month, and also host events as ways to raise funds. And so people get behind those people participating in the campaign and raise money that goes into programs focused on prostate cancer, testicular cancer, and men's mental health and suicide prevention. So really important issues that are being tackled. And the generosity of just literally hundreds of thousands of people across the globe has meant that over 1,000 programs have been funded off the back of Mo Bros and Mo Sisters fundraising over the month of November. So the funds are key. In addition to that, there's the conversations, as you point out. Mustaches are almost impossible to ignore, especially about this time of the month where they start getting pretty fulsome. And so that can ignite a conversation about, real conversations about men's health, taking action where someone might need to about a mental health issue or a physical health issue, and getting those things up and talked about more openly is just such an important part of the movement, and doing it in a way that guys relate to with a bit of humour, a bit of fun, making it sort of everyday is a really important part of the Movember story.
Well, you are sporting a very fine mustache yourself. So how many times have you gone through the Movember process, raising money and growing the mustache? Because you do look like you've had a fair bit of practice on what suits you mustache-wise.
Thank you, sir. That does give me confidence at this time of the month to hear that, so thanks. I've been around a few times. I've been with Movember for 5 years now, and each year it is different, and different people get involved and different people support in their own way. Some people ride bikes ridiculous distances and do all sorts of things to generate funds. Other people shave their mustaches off that they've had their whole life. Lots of different things to encourage people to get behind them. And it's just one of those amazing things, the Movember movement. It really is a movement of the people, where just a fantastic number of people get behind it every year and either support people like myself getting involved or get involved in their own unique way.
Yeah, and that's the other part, which is really important, the fundraising aspect, like to actually support somebody, because you see a lot of mustaches around everywhere. And like you said, there's most sisters now. It's really important to dip into your pocket and assist by supporting somebody who's grown a mustache as well. As well as being actively involved in Movember, you're also launching the Fatherhood, which we'll get to shortly. But as a father, what does it mean to you to be a father to 3 young girls?
Oh, it's the best job in the world. I'm a lucky dad of 3 girls, and almost eight, 6 and 3-year-olds, and it's amazing. I mean, just it's a fantastic job. I wouldn't call it a job, actually. It's the most important role I have in my life, but it comes with its challenges. In a lot of ways, everything for me changed when I had kids. My relationship with my wife changed. My relationship to work changed. My relationship to my health changed. All of a sudden, me being around meant a whole lot more to lots of other people. So it impacts different people in different ways, mums and dads, but it's big. It's a big shift in life. And with the Fatherhood, that's what we're looking to do. It's me and a couple of other dads that have come together and said, well, how can we get involved and try and create something that can help tell the stories of dads and try and support them through a huge change. And in addition to that, we're seeing generational change in terms of the roles of fathers and the roles of mothers, and we're all making it up as we're going along. It's just such a rapidly changing time. It's an exciting time because there's some really positive things happening, but that leads to questions as well.
Yeah, has it changed a lot since you had your first, you mentioned she was 8 years old. Has it changed a bit in the workplace and the expectations around fathers and parents in general since you had your first child and now?
Oh, it's a good question. I haven't seen a huge change, but maybe that's because I've been in the trenches dealing with, I've been in it as a dad, and you're probably the hungriest for information about things like parental leave and stuff on your first. So I think that's when your behaviour and attitudes kind of get set. So I personally haven't seen a huge change in that. But one thing I do talk to a lot of people about is in one generation. So I'm the youngest of 3 boys. And my dad wasn't invited to the birth of my 2 older brothers. Yeah, and so that I'm 44, so that's in 40 years, and then he came to my birth. But now there was no way. The kind of expectation and right was that I would be in the room for the birth of my daughters, and that's a huge shift. It's just one example of the involvement and the changing roles in one generation. So there's been just an unprecedented shift in that time.
And how have you found it? You've obviously gone from a family of boys growing up to now raising 3 girls. I'd imagine it's a seismic shift between what you grew up being familiar with and what you're living through now.
It's huge. It's a huge shift. But it's funny that you adapt to the world. So now I kind of couldn't imagine being the father of sons. It's funny. I'm just used to being surrounded by girls and learning the plait hair and everything else that comes with being the dad of girls. Yeah, quite a different household dynamic. And I'll be going to dance lessons more than, there's a gender stereotypes, more than footy clubs maybe in future. But yeah, it's been quite an adjustment in terms of the things you need to learn about and the pressures that I might have down the track as they grow up and the issues that they might face. So I think as parents, we're all learning. We're all learning the whole way along and just learning based on what life throws at you. And for me, it's 3 beautiful girls, and I'm learning every day how to be the best that I can.
Well, do you have any tips for new fathers out there? Because I know when we've got one boy and when he was born, it was, wow, there's a lot of Googling, lots of bits and pieces and stuff like that. There's a lot of information now compared to probably when we were younger and parents were doing things a certain way back then. But do you have any tips for new parents out there?
It's interesting. The best tip, I think, one thing I love talking about this because everyone's journey is different. And so it can be hard. I remember when we were about to have our baby, all this advice comes in and it's kind of trying to pick between, which one should we listen to? And at the end of the day, you'll have your own journey, even something specific in the process like childbirth. Everyone's birth is so unique in the way that they choose to go about it. And also nature deals the cards in a lot of situations. But I do remember one piece of advice that I got that impacted me in a really positive way. That was the one fathers group I went to before my eldest daughter was born. We were all sitting around, all the dads, and it was a beautiful kind of hour or two just to sit there and enjoy the moment, actually the world stopping and thinking, I'm about to become a dad. Like, and just really sitting in that, because that's a different thing with the genders. Like, I'd go to work and have meetings. In that time, my wife is carrying around a human and making a human. So immediately our relationships are a little bit different. So you wouldn't forget that you're going to be a dad, but I certainly wasn't mindful of it all the time. So just to sit in a room and be mindful about this is about to happen was really great. And in that session, because I know a lot of people put a lot of pressure on themselves, and I certainly was. What am I going to do? And I don't know how to change nappies. I don't know anything. And the guy that was running the session just said, look, guys, if you want to be a good dad, just turn up. Just give it a go. And I remember it to this day because it impacted me so well, because I was like, oh, I can do that. I mean, it was just like, get involved when you're at the hospital and they're teaching people how to change nappies, roll your sleeves up and get in there. And so the advice was just give it a crack. And yeah, you don't know how to breastfeed, but you might be able to help, and just ask, just get in there and see how you can help that situation. And so that advice, I mean, it's fairly global, but for me, it was all those moments where you might be questioning yourself or thinking, oh, I don't know if I'm adding much value. I was just like, nah, get in there, go and give it a crack. And if you're giving it a crack and you're turning up, you're being a good dad. For me, that felt like really wise advice.
That is really, really wise advice. And people do really well to listen to that, because there is a lot of information out there coming from a lot of different sources. And generally your spouse, your wife or your girlfriend or whatever your situation, they get bombarded with more as well. So supporting them, I found, was part of that process as well, being there for them, because they get information from a lot more sources than dads seem to.
For sure. Yeah, that's right. And that's it. Such an important part of it is being there, and you might feel useless at times, but if you're there providing that emotional support or practical support, it makes a huge difference.
Especially the first one. I guess going through the third one now, the third one's kind of, you're a dab old hand at raising kids to some extent now.
The thing about it, kind of, but the thing about being a parent is it changes all the time. Like, and you forget. So, when you're doing I think a good example is the settling techniques. 1 minute you're kind of tapping them on the bum a certain way and getting them to sleep. And then they grow up another week and that technique doesn't work anymore and you're starting again. You're learning. And third time round it was the same. We're still making up as we went along. And you've got to, I guess you've done it before, so you're a little bit experienced in the game. But I don't think there's any parenting experts out there. Let's put it that way. We're all doing the best we can.
That is true. Now, you got a lot on the go. You're still helping Movember out. You've just launched the Fatherhood. How do you juggle all of this with being a father as well?
Yeah, it's a challenge for everyone. And that's one of the things is with kids, they take time, and you want to be a present parent and keep your career going. And I know lots of people, mums and dads included, experience that challenge. One of the tips we were given, actually, we did an interview with Paul Roos for the Fatherhood recently, and he talked about this issue that so many people feel, this kind of work-life balance and how to manage that. And he had some really good advice. I'm sure he wouldn't mind me passing on. Is the kind of, he called it like the work-life blur. You'd rather than try and separate them, kind of combine them, give them each their own space and their own time. But he would give examples of his wife and kids coming into the change rooms at the footy club, like kind of get them involved and get them integrate those lives. And it's not always easy because, you're not going to take your kids to work every day. But kind of realise that it's always going to be a juggle and then do the best you can by managing that. I think is good advice, and particularly now where workplaces are becoming more flexible. So then that does provide a great opportunity if people take it up for dads and mums to be home, but the kids put down time, but then you might be on a conference call later on that night and kind of blur that a little bit. Does make it a bit easier.
Yeah, it's describing my workday perfectly. Actually, I term it the work-life blend when people ask about my work-life balance. My day will start at sort of 5:36 when I wake up naturally, and it'll kind of extend through to 9:30 at night when the computer will go off. But during that period, during the day, I could be doing anything from doing work to conference calls to minding the kid and everything in between. So it's really important to look at your life and your work as something which can be blended together these days, because technology and the way we can work now facilitates us being able to blend work and life together. Probably a little bit easier than being an AFL coach, I guess. But certainly a lot easier for us in offices anyway.
Yeah, it is. And there's change afoot. And one of the issues that I think we need to address is even in offices where paid parental schemes are equally available to mums and dads, currently dads aren't taking it up as much as mums are. So there's potentially a cultural issue or, around that where dads just don't feel that they can for whatever reason. And that's part of the change I think we all need to take on, is how do we genuinely make that equal for everyone, the perceived ability to, and we've all got that. I've got that in myself. I've got to admit it, that I put a lot of pressure on myself to be an earner, to provide that kind of classic masculine kind of view of, I now must provide for my family. And someone said something very interesting to me a little while ago. It's looking at what do we mean by provide, and maybe we could change the way that we refer to that. And like for me, when I was definitely when I kicked in having kids, and a lot of my friends have been through this, I must go and earn a lot of money, kicks in for lots of dads. And maybe we need to think, well, providing might be the emotional support that you were talking about earlier, supporting our partners. And that means you can't be at the office for 14 hours a day.
Is there anywhere for new fathers out there, or fathers in general, to get support if they're questioning what they're doing, how they're going about their life, and maybe trying to change a couple of things to be a bit more involved? Is there many resources out there that you're aware of that men can tap into?
There's lots of resources. So I would encourage any guys listening to Google away. They're there. Unfortunately, they're not being utilised as much as they could. And there's some fantastic movements. There's a group called Dads Group Incorporated, DGI. So if anyone Googled Dads Group Incorporated, that's been part funded by Movember, and is an example of some great guys that have come together and said, look, we need fathers groups like there's mothers groups, because you got this to get guys together and sharing their experience, because we know that can be such a good thing. So there's this resource out there that would be fantastic if more guys got involved, because then they can hook up with dads in their area and have these sort of fantastically beneficial catch-ups. So that's just one example. Or there is a lot of information online, which is just, in my view, not being utilised as much as it could. And so I'd encourage guys to get involved. And one of the things that inspired the Fatherhood as a concept was exactly that issue. The information's out there, but how do we connect it with guys so that they're seeing it, and encourage them to read this stuff and then action it.
Well, tell me a little bit more about the Fatherhood and what you're doing there.
Yeah, so what we're looking to do, it's me and two other dads have come together, and we're looking to address this issue, basically. There's information there, and make sure it's connected with dads, so that they know, so they feel armed with the knowledge to be the best dads that they possibly can. Another really important aspect is connecting, and even it might be physically one day down the track, but our vision for the Fatherhood is to, even if it's online through social media, connect dads to be sharing stories and sharing perspectives. It's amazing, I think, when someone shares a story and you can relate to it so well, it just, that normalising, you go, oh wow, you're going through that as, all right, okay, yeah. How'd you deal with that? It's just such a powerful, seemingly simple, but a really powerful connection. So that's looking to bring dads together, even if it's just, and kind of provide for fathers. Like, there's lots of media businesses out there now, Babyology, Mamma Mia, Essential Baby, Kids Spot, which all have a bit of a feminine leaning and they attract women. So with the Fatherhood, we're looking to have a masculine leaning and attract men to that conversation.
Well, it takes a lot of courage to go first, and it takes a lot of courage to put something like this together in a space which has not really been done before. So I think it's a fantastic thing that you guys are doing. Where can people find out more about the Fatherhood?
The Fatherhood is at www.the-father-hood.com is the web address, and the full website will be launching soon. And throughout social media, so Facebook, Instagram, we've started posting daily across those platforms. I mean, we'd love people to get involved, check out what we're doing. It's the-father-hood or the.father.hood, depending on which platform you're on. So yeah, that's where there's posts about really heroing great dads, heroing hands-on dads is what we're about. So really celebrating this amazing stage of our life, and we want it to be the most aspirational job in the world for dads to step up to, not something to be feared, it's something to be heroed.
I can't wait to check it out once it's fully up online. And yeah, do check out the social media platforms now and jump on the website. Jeremy, I'd like to thank you for your time today. You're a very busy man with all you do, and the three girls as well. So appreciate your time, and thank you very much for coming on board today.
Oh, it's a pleasure. I can talk about this stuff all day. It's great stuff, and well done on everything you do with the podcast. So yeah, thanks again for having me.
And that about wraps it up for this week. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back next week for another episode, or should I say serving of Daddy Eats Last. How's that for a dad joke? Catch you next week.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.